Okay, so we're going to look at some lines and determine whether they have a positive slope or a negative slope. So we have 5 lines here, so we'll look at each one individually and determine the direction of the line. So if we start with the red line, the red line starts over here in the second quadrant. It comes through the first quadrant, and then it goes over here into the fourth quadrant. So the red line goes in the general direction of the second quadrant to the fourth quadrant. So the red line is going to have a negative slope. So if we look now at the orange line starts over here in the third quadrant. It comes through the fourth quadrant a tiny bit, and then it comes over into the first quadrant. So the orange line goes in the general direction of the third quadrant to the first quadrant. So the orange line is going to have a positive slope. Okay, if we look at the green line starts down here in the third quadrant. It comes up a tiny bit through the second quadrant and then over into the first quadrant. So the green line goes in the general direction of the third quadrant to the first quadrant, so that is going to be a positive slope. All right, if we look at the purple line, or the pink line, that starts down here in the third quadrant. It comes through the fourth quadrant and then up into the first quadrant. So from the third quadrant to the first quadrant is going to be a positive slope. And then the blue line, it starts up here in the second quadrant. It comes down through the first quadrant and then into the fourth quadrant. So that goes in the general direction of the second quadrant to the fourth quadrant. So that is going to be a negative slope. Okay, so go back to the example and see if you can figure out the general direction of each line, and then use that to determine if the line is positive or negative.